keeping you up to speed on all your Colorado teams. It's time for Coffee Break.
Happy game day, everybody. It's a Thursday, but it's a Broncos game day. It's a Nuggets game day. And I think that there's certainly a lot at stake for the Broncos. And the Nuggets, they've got, it may not be a high-stake game, but they've got some high-stakes games internally within the building that they're going to have to play if we're going to make another run at a Larry O'Brien trophy. And so on a Broncos game day with the parameters involved, I can't think of many more people that I'd want to talk to than our guy, James Merilatt, who I'm sure is going to have me throwing my head back in some fashion with something. I don't know what it is. Usually I have a pretty good radar, but I know that it's coming because I'm going to give a take about the Broncos and as it relates to Bo Nix and the offense that I think is going to make you just salivate, but for the wrong reasons.
Okay, well, I'm ready for that. I don't think I'm going to come at you with anything that's going to make you roll your eyes or throw your head back. I'm excited for the game. It's the opportunity to quiet the naysayers
like you,
who people want to put me in that category just because I'm a little bit in the show me state that's my group. But look, they got a chance to do it tonight, and I actually think they're going to. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert. I know we'll do picks at the end, but I think they've got an opportunity to do it tonight. It's a big test. The last time they played the Chargers, it was 23-16 was the final.
And it wasn't that close.
It was not that close.
Nope, I was there.
It was 23-0 at the end of the third quarter. The Broncos got dominated and then put up some garbage points.
It felt like a less aggressive version of Super Bowl 48 when the ball went over Payton's head on the first snap because Bo Nix's first play of the game, they get the ball. Bo Nix has a pass tipped, intercepted on the first play, and it just felt like it was woes from then on. This is one of the big remaining tests for the Broncos this season. The Chargers are a bona fide playoff team as well. And although I don't think that they've gotten drastically better since the last time these two teams face off, like I would argue the Broncos have definitely gotten better since that first game in, what was that, week 5 or something like that? Week 4. The Chargers haven't gotten worse either, and they've dealt with some injuries and had to adapt to that. But this is a test because the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and the identity that he's molded around a team that by and large has kind of been listless in the wind. Chargers going to Charger, they have a lot of talent and they just seem to screw it up. A lot of that seems to be going away. They've tightened the hatches and they don't run the ball that well either. But when you've got Justin Herbert under center or throwing the ball, who can also do some things with his legs, there's a lot they can work with.
Yeah, I think offensively, despite the fact they don't have a ton of weapons or big name weapons on the outside, neither do the Broncos. Like, we know the names, but outside of Cortland Sutton, most people around the country don't. They do have, and this isn't a shot, they do have the better quarterback tonight.
No. He's got a better body of work.
Better quarterback. I think coaching-wise, I'm a Harbaugh guy. But if we're just being completely honest about it, probably pretty even, right? Both guys are very accomplished and have won in a lot of places. And home field isn't that big of a deal in L.A. Now, we'll see tonight because it's a Thursday game. Does Broncos country travel like they would have if this game was in 4 days? I was there last year for the Broncos-Chargers game. It was half Broncos fans. And the Chargers weren't particularly good, neither were the Broncos, but it was a ton of Broncos fans. So it'll be interesting to see tonight. But it's not a hornet's nest. They're not going into a place that's going to be, oh my gosh, just went into a buzzsaw. And how do you withstand the first quarter and dealing with the crowd and all that kind of stuff? It won't be that tonight. It's a great opportunity. Like, that's what you want, is the opportunity to go prove to everyone, especially on a national stage, that you belong. You win this game. You put the Chargers in a position where they're definitely looking in the rearview mirror at teams behind them, whether it's the Bengals or the Dolphins or whoever else. And you put yourself in a spot where you're squarely looking at the Ravens and you're 10-5. You're legit at that point. Go prove you're legit. That's what the Broncos can do tonight.
Yep. And I think that exact notion that you just mentioned, that it's an opportunity to blank, that is the exact reason, that fact is the exact reason why we're here. Because it was Sean Payton all but said it earlier this week. The reason the Broncos are playing on Thursday night is because Sean Payton just wanted to put his guy, he wanted to play in prime time. He wanted to put his product out there for the world to see. When we talked about it when it first got announced, and I kind of chuckled because I said, you found the one thing that the NFL, who's the evil empire, and has all the power in the world, and they're basically a war machine. You found the one thing that they couldn't force you to do, and you gave it to him anyways. And the reason you did it, if you're Sean Payton, we speculated, well, maybe it was a favor to Greg Penner, who's a new owner and wants to do a solid to Roger Goodell. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Was it strategery involved in terms of flexing a team, to give them less rest when you've got to play them and give yourself more rest and yada, yada, yada? And then do you use the bye week because you have a late bye? None of that. Baloney. Sean Payton, he said it in a press conference earlier this week. He said, you can either play in the 2:00 mountain window all your life, or you can play in primetime with everyone watching. And I want to be that guy. So tell me when to play and where to play, and I'll show up. So, albeit in my opinion, it still remains a strategical disadvantage to have done what they're doing. The reason that I'm not okay with it, but I'm at least understanding of it, is because that's Sean Payton being who he is. That's being true to himself. And when you are developing and building a culture within a new organization, that ethos of being true to who you are is important. The authenticity is important. It's the same reason why we may lament nationally and whatever Dan Campbell when he makes a boneheaded decision to go for it on 4th and 4 on his own 27-yard line with a lead, or onside kicking it with a little over 10 minutes left in a game that you end up losing because you didn't recover and blah, blah, blah. But him doing those things is him being true to who he is and how he operates. And his team has bought into that, and it's meshed with the identity of that city in Detroit. And so while there may be instances where you can point and be like, that was wrong, it's also, in my opinion, the driving force behind the reason that they went 1-7, turned it completely around, and are now the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. I think a coach, a leader of any sort, has to be authentic. Just be yourself, right? And be consistent in that. Some of the worst coaches and worst leaders you'll see are trying to go with the wind, right? And what's a better way what personality traits are better in this instance, in this instance? Like, it doesn't work. Yeah. You can't be that kind of a chameleon. But you pointed out Dan Campbell. I think that's a great example. It doesn't always work out. Like, long term, it does.
Sure.
Short term, it doesn't. NFC title game, it didn't work. Overall, for the Lions and the way they've turned it around, it's worked. We'll see. I do think this move, and it's swagger, and that part of it I like. But I think this move overall, in terms of the Broncos becoming Sean Payton's team and it kind of in his mold, I think is a good thing. Will it backfire tonight? I don't know. I mean, look, if they lose tonight and we all look back and say, man, having to play that game on a short week and quick turnaround, that was dumb, especially if it dominoes into then you lose to Cincy, then you lose to Kansas City. And it's like, man, what a opportunity they blew. If they go out and win tonight, he's a genius because now they got 9 days to get ready for the Bengals.
My father used to always say, you live and die by your own sword. So I'm going to go down one way or the other. And if I'm going to go down, I'm going to do it my way, or I'm going to succeed. And at the end of the day, in some aspects, that's all you can really ask of somebody in a leadership position is you're put there to lead, do it your way, and hope that everyone follows you. And by and large, I think the Broncos have. As it relates to the game tonight, I think that the Broncos are going to be plagued with facing a problem that they've faced every single week this season, and that is, how do we squeeze any kind of juice out of this rushing offense? Because by and large, it's been abysmal. It's been ineffective, and it has put even more stress and strain on a rookie quarterback who's already trying to navigate his first year in the NFL and manage the passing side of the offense. And everyone always likes to say a quarterback's two best friends are a good defense and a good run game. Well, he's got one. The defense has been outstanding to the degree where they've put up. I love the stat that our guy James Palmer threw out there, that the Broncos defense is responsible for 39 points on the scoreboard this season. That's not like, hey, holding them to certain things and they get credit for a field goal instead of a touchdown. They have scored 39 points, including extra points, which I'm not going to take away from them this year. But the run game has not been there by and large. And it's resulted in this hot hand approach, which to me is sometimes I think it's viewed as like a positive strategic move, or I don't. I think it's a desperate force of circumstance, and you're lipsticking the pig by saying we're going with the hot hand when all the hands are cold. This is just the most lukewarm hand. And with Jaleel McLaughlin being ruled out for this game, your hottest hand, your most lukewarm hand, isn't going to be out there. So you've now got Javonte and Audric Estime. They have Blake Watson as an option. I don't know how much we're going to see of him. And there have been people who've been saying, hey, well, give that guy a shot. Tyler Bidet, who's on injured reserve and hasn't practiced since like the first month of the season, maybe had the best individual run or the best individual game, one of them of the whole year, and we haven't been able to see much out of him either. So I've got an answer that I think is basically the only card left if you're Sean Payton, who we hear, from guys on this station nationally, you got to get more creative in the run game. And that's another thing. That to me becomes like synergy or streamline. It's just a buzzword. Got to get more creative, right?
Like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Because at the end of the day, there's only so much creativity you can use. Running the football, in essence, is the quarterback turning the ball or turn around, handing the ball off, and another guy needing to make a play. You just got to go break a tackle. You got to slip a block, and you got to make a play. And the Broncos just have not shown the ability to do that consistently. I think in terms of bonus points for creativity, the injection of Marvin Mims into the run game, be it through jet sweeps, screen type misdirection passes and things like that. But again, that's like a trick play working and then be like, we should just run all game flea flickers. It's just not, you can only do that so much before you lose the effectiveness of it. So I think the only card that really the Broncos have left, I think you got to let the duck fly. I think you got to turn back to Bo Nix and put even more pressure on him. He's already been the leading rusher multiple times this season. He's athletic. He's tall. He's quick. Look at the stats between Bo Nix and the Broncos' top two hot hand running backs. It's not that far off.
It's not. That isn't a testament, though, to how good of a runner Bo Nix is. He's been better than we think.
He's a pretty good runner.
He's not Lamar Jackson.
I'm not asking him to be. He doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson. He's just got to be better than that low bar.
That stat is just an indictment of their running back.
It is, but here's what I'm telling you, James, is that you're not going to get any better than you've already gotten from those two, Javonte and Jaleel, right there in the middle and to the right. Bo Nix, it's unfair the amount of pressure he's already being put on him. And
so you want to do more?
Yes. And this is what
sure.
This is the reason
is more fair than making unfair more unfair.
Yes, and this is the reason why I said I think you were going to be salivating about it, because what I'm advocating for, which I think could work, because I think Bo Nix has shown some savviness as a runner, and I think he's got a better explosive playmaking ability than the two running backs, quite frankly, in open space. I think that it's an area that he did well against the Chargers last time they played. You know how many rushing yards the Broncos had last time they played the Chargers?
I know they had like 50 yards offense through three quarters. How many did they end up with?
It was 110 rushing yards against the Chargers. How many do you think Bo Nix had?
Half.
61.
Okay.
More than, basically a little more than half. So
okay, but they were down 23-0 and they put up a bunch of garbage yards in the fourth quarter.
But and I said, and I was right, just like the others who said it, you can't, your quarterback being the leading rusher, unless it's a designed situation like it is with Lamar Jackson, pre-Derrick Henry and Josh Allen, things of that nature, is not ideal, especially because of what you're asking him to do. But you've tried everything else and it hasn't worked. And you have to be able to run the ball better, because in addition to the Chargers defensively running a zone defense that's going to eliminate some of Bo Nix's ability to really take the top off and throw the deep ball like he likes to Troy Franklin, to Marvin Mims, to Sutton, whoever. So in addition to them playing zone defense, you can't also allow Jim Harbaugh and his crew to tee up on the fact that you're not going to run the ball. You've got to keep them honest. And I think Bo Nix has the best ability to do that, especially down Jaleel McLaughlin. But what it's also doing is it's setting up for everything to be put on Bo Nix's shoulders to go out there and be special. And then he falls short. And then James Merilatt of the world will be like, see, I told you he had the opportunity. The stage was set and he flopped. So maybe he's not the guy.
Look, he's been a better runner than we thought he would be coming out of Oregon. But a lot of that has been because the opponents didn't expect him to be running the football, because he's been less effective in the last half of the games than he was at the beginning of the season when it was catching people by surprise. Mm-hmm. Now, at least teams have got the film. They look at it and say, hey, we got to be aware of Bo Nix running. But it's not to the point where they're like putting a spy on him.
No, and that's why I think it could work.
Okay, he's not. Oh, my gosh. One, it's a testament to how awful this team's running game is. The 100%. Hot hand approach, When were the hands hot?
That's what lukewarm at best.
Who was the least crappy of the
Zach
backs
Bai
every
says
game?
it. Zach Bai says it's so great. He's like, we've gotten to the point where we get like a 54-yard rushing performance from Javonte Williams, and we're like, hey, Javonte.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like they all get excited about it.
We've been beaten into like appreciating the mediocre more than we should.
No doubt. And so, but look, and you mentioned it, the best running back performance of the year was Tyler Bidet. That was a guy no one expected.
Mm-hmm.
To me tonight, fine. Jaleel can't go. Is it Blake Watson? Who's it going to be? Let's give someone else a shot.
Estime.
Maybe you stumble into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we know what Javonte is at this point. We don't quite know what Estime is. We don't know what Blake Watson is. I think the Marvin Mims idea, if you're going to do it, because I do think it's a good one, it's got to be, hey, he can't be back there only on the trick plays when he's getting the ball.
Yeah.
Put him back there a lot. He ain't Deebo Samuel, but maybe you can use him in a way like the Niners do with Deebo, where you move him around and he's on the field a lot and he gets 40 snaps and half of them are in the backfield. Like, okay, that'd be fine. That to me is being creative, and maybe you stumble upon the solution, right? It's desperation being the finest form of inspiration. I think I got that right. Maybe that's what the Broncos do tonight. But if that inspiration gives them, hey, let's have our mediocre running quarterback be our ground game,
I'm not
Sean
saying
Payton needs to go back to the drawing board.
I'm not saying have him be the entire focal point of the ground game. I'm saying they need to mix in more quarterback run opportunities. And frankly, Sean Payton did this with Russell Wilson last year. I think that was a little bit more indicative of a limited skill set in Sean Payton's eyes of like, hey, Russ isn't the best at work in the middle of the field, so I'm going to get him out in space like he likes, and it's a one read or run situation. And I think Russ in the first half of the year did pretty well at that, and then things kind of defenses adjusted and things kind of faded, and I think he was dealing with some health things toward the end.
Here's the other part of it, right? Like Lamar he's quick and elusive enough that he's not going to take big hits. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen is big enough, like he can
absorb the big hits.
The last thing this team needs is Bo Nix going out there and running a dozen times and taking hits, and then all of a sudden your 9-6 start or 10-5 start turns into, well, good luck in the last 2 weeks and in the playoffs with Jarrett Stidham.
Okay, Jay, but listen, injuries can happen.
Come on.
Bo Nix could go out and get injured on a non-contact play standing in the pocket, so you can't be afraid.
And I could get in an accident.
Plus,
I could get in an accident driving home from work today, but that doesn't mean, well, hell, I might as well drive 95 miles an hour because I could get in an accident.
How late are you?
You can make it more dangerous.
How late are you going to be? But the quarterback also has the capability to slide, and there were early.
Yeah, that worked out well for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, but that was a bad play. Come on.
Look, why are the Dolphins in the situation they're in? It's because Tua missed so many games. Not that he's been great since he came back, but they had no chance when he wasn't out there. Bo Nix has turned into a guy early in the year. He didn't do anything that I didn't think Jarrett Stidham couldn't do.
If you keep saying that, I'm going to smack you.
Now he does.
If you keep saying that,
now you want to put him in harm's way.
There's nothing that Bo Nix does that Jarrett Stidham can do. You know why? Because Jarrett Stidham's not a starting NFL caliber quarterback.
You want to put the Broncos one play away from having him be their quarterback on Wild Card Weekend. I mean, talk about just run to the window and bet against him.
No.
Why would you?
I've actually been mean. I'm glad you said it because I've been mean because I hear you say it. Like, oh, there's nothing that happened on that drive that Jarrett Stidham. Yeah, Jarrett Stidham has started like 7 games in his 7-year NFL career because he sucks. So there's a lot of things that almost any other quarterback in the league can do that Jarrett Stidham can't do. And I think it's proven by the fact that nobody wants to start him.
Jarrett Stidham couldn't make the throw to Marvin Mims against the Browns.
No, he couldn't.
Jarrett Stidham can't run around like Bo Nix does and buy time and make plays. Mm-hmm. Could Jarrett Stidham throw 3-yard drag routes to Nate Atkins? He could.
No, he can't. You know why? You know why? Because no one lets him out on the field. You can't throw the pass from the sideline next to the water coolers. That's why he couldn't do it.
I'm just saying, if you don't think he's very good, I don't know why you want to create a game plan that makes the reality of him being your starting quarterback down the stretch in the playoffs in play. I think that's playing with fire, Richie.
I think it's a loser's mentality to say, well, we're not going to do this because he could get hurt on a potential play that we don't even know is going to happen. You got to run the ball better. If you're going to play, the Broncos
and your professional football team with professional running backs, find one.
They're not good. And so the time to readdress, you got what you got. That cake is baked in the running back room. It just doesn't taste good. So my point is, I don't want to eat the bad cake anymore. I'm just going to have a cherry turnover instead. I'm going to go to the other side of the dessert table, grab a chocolate chip cookie.
How long do you think it would take the Chargers to adjust to, hey, they're running the ball a lot with Bo Nix tonight? A drive? 2 drives? Like, I just don't think
he ran a lot last game. Or last time they played.
When they were down, and it was like, hey, if they want to let their quarterback run around,
who's to say they won't be down again this time?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a fun recipe. Your cherry turnover is going to be pretty awful.
I disagree, man. I'm not saying it's the long-term solution.
All right, so,
I'm not even saying it will work. You just have to do something.
How many carries do you want Bo Nix to have tonight?
Design carries or like scramble?
Design carries, because you want him to be the focal point of the running game. How many design carries does he have?
7.
And how many yards does he need to put up?
45.
Okay. If 7 carries for 45 yards is the leading ground guy for the Broncos tonight, they're getting on a plane flying home at 9-6. That ain't going to get it done.
No, it's not. But I'm not even saying he has to be the leading rusher. What I'm saying is you need to just mix it in more to provide a little bit more variety, because turning the ball off and just asking Jaleel McLaughlin to try to plow his way between the guard and the tackle, or trying to get cutesy with some outside stuff and, Audric Estime grinding forward in the closeout carries, it's just not enough of a threat, I don't think. And I'm not even talking about just for this game. I'm not even necessarily talking about the Bengals game or the Chiefs game, which you may be playing against the Jared Stidhams of the Chiefs.
Maybe.
I'm talking about when you get to the postseason, which they have a north of 90% chance of doing, and there's a potential at 10 o'clock tonight, they have a 100% chance of doing it. When you get to the postseason, you've got to find a way to be a little bit different. Teams are going to be able to hone in on you. They're all better in theory, and I don't think their offense is ready enough or ready as it should be on the rushing component to be able to go toe-to-toe. And we've talked about some matchups to be better than others. The Steelers right now, terrible at running the football. They're last in yards per attempt, but they're top 3 or 5 in attempts. So they just keep hammering at it. That's working for them. It's not really working for the Broncos right now because they keep bailing on it, and they do that. So I'm trying to find ways to not bail on it as quickly as they have been. And if that means using Bo Nix a little bit more, if that means feeding Blake Watson or Audric Estime a little bit more, okay, I'm just trying to throw something out there because I hate stagnation. I hate doing nothing.
Agreed. I agree with you on that. I agree with you. I would prefer it to be Marvin Mims. Like that would, to me, is the outside the box idea. Yours is Bo Nix. That's fine. I like the thought process
behind it.
I just don't like the answer that you came up with at the end of it, but that's okay. If they go out there and just try and do the same thing with Javonte over and over and over again that they've been doing all year, that's the biggest failure. So trying something new and it not working, okay. Trying the same thing is again and again and again. They can't go out and be the definition of insanity tonight. So I'll agree with you on that part of it.
On that note, in terms of doing the same thing over and over and over again, or trying to make a change, even if it's just sometimes for change's sake, I think we're having a similar vibe of conversation as it relates to the Denver Nuggets. We had it with the Avalanche when it came to the goaltending situation. To their credit, the Avs, when me and you and others were banging the table saying you can't just sit on your hands, the time to act is now, you can't be stagnant, they did. They gutted their goaltender room, they brought in the Woods, and we'll see how it goes. It wasn't what I wanted. I was more of and maybe what I wanted wasn't feasible or possible when it came to swing for the fences. Give me a Shesterkin, who's on a little bit of a free fall with the Rangers a little bit, or Sorokin, or give me a top flight goaltender, the best goaltender that's available on the market to lock down. Get it, even if it means slicing off a 100-point scorer in Mikko Rantanen situation. That's what I wanted. Maybe it was wrong. Maybe it was right. Maybe it was possible. Maybe it wasn't. What happened was the approach that Will Peterson wrote about at denversports.com and others, the likes of Drew Spivak and other people here in the building who are genuine hockey minds, just said, hey, I don't need the filet mignon. Just give me a nice top sirloin and I can make a good meal. I got good enough side dishes around it, that we can do. And that's what they did. They got Mackenzie Blackwood from San Jose. They got Scott Wedgwood, and we'll see how it goes. You and I talked about it, and I think there's a chance that it could happen, that we're ended up having a similar conversation. Was the goaltending a little bit better than it was with Georgie? Yeah, but was it good enough to win a cup? No. And then we're having that kind of conversation. The Nuggets, it's a different problem, but the same problem in some aspects. The Nuggets, what they have right now isn't working. But the Nuggets, it's not really a specific issue like, hey, the goaltending thing for the Avs. It's more about the ingredients of the cake that they've baked just going sour. They've got the 4 guys under max contracts, and they've paid all these guys, and they're just outside of Jokic, who has normalized greatness in a way that we can't comprehend sometimes.
But of the 4, who's the problem?
Jamal.
Okay. So the proposed trades of sending MPJ to Chicago for Zach LaVine and all the other stuff that are out there. The problem is Jamal Murray, and the proposed trades is not getting rid of the problem.
But you can't move Jamal Murray.
I get it. Yeah. But you're going to get rid of MPJ trying to solve the problem. And to me, like, if you watch the end of the Kings game, I know he made the shot, but what did the Nuggets do? 2-man game. Jamal took the shot. It's the same thing over and over and over again. So if you're going to bring in Zach LaVine and you're going to make him the second guy, and Jamal's willing to be the third guy, and Michael Malone is willing to do stuff other than just 2-man game with Jokic and Murray, okay, it might work. If you bring him in, it doesn't matter who you bring in. And if it's just like, hey, go stand in the corner and we'll kick it out to you every 3 or 4 minutes.
And that wouldn't be the case. With Zach LaVine is he's a great ISO player. But with that comes a ball dominant player who's going to constantly be demanding the ball and need to continue to be fed in order to get into that rhythm. And I don't know that necessarily works within the framework of the way that the Nuggets have been.
It does not. They don't do it for MPJ.
They don't do it for MPJ. But again, I feel like this conversation has made me kind of almost sit in both the prosecution and the defense. Like I'm having an argument with myself because you just said, hey, the Nuggets do the same thing over and over again. It's the 2-man game. It's the pick and roll. And it's Jokic and Murray spinning in circles until Jamal takes a shot or Jokic can dish it to a guy cutting to the basket. If you're saying they can't do the same thing over and over again, I think Zach LaVine could disrupt that flow. And is Jokic good enough to adapt it? I don't want the Nuggets to trade Michael Porter Jr. for Zach LaVine. And I'll tell you why. Because statistically, they're not that much different. And Michael Porter Jr. is 5 inches taller and 3 years younger. So if it was so much swayed in Zach LaVine's favor statistically, I could see myself justifying, hey, I know it's not typically how they've done it. Let's maybe try to risk disrupting some of that flow for a guy that can genuinely put up points, which is what they need. You need non-Jokic scoring. I just don't think the juice in that instance is worth the squeeze.
And those are numbers he's putting up on a team where he's the guy.
Yeah.
What's he going to do when he's here and he's at best second, probably third, because Michael Malone loves Jamal Murray. He's afraid to tell him anything negative. I don't think he's going to go to him and say, hey, we need you to move to the third option here. We're going to have LaVine be 2. Yep. So, and Will Peterson brought this up on Denver Sports Tonight last night. I thought it was a good example of how going and getting a star player off of a bad team can really help a good team. Aaron Gordon's a prime example, but Aaron Gordon was willing to come here and be the 3rd or 4th guy.
Yep. Completely revamp the trajectory and the role that his career had taken.
Correct.
Up to that point.
Not every NBA player is willing to do that. More of them are Jeremy Grant. They'd rather go to a bad team and be the guy on a bad
averaging
team,
29 points a game for
than
a team
going the
that
other
wins
way.
29 games.
Right. Then go the other way around. So that's where it's like, okay, how will the personalities on the court deal with it? How will the coach deal with it? And the fact of, well, Calvin Booth may think this is a better mix, but is Michael Malone going to do it? Because those two guys aren't on the same page. I just think you're trying to solve a problem by not getting rid of the problem, and all you're going to do is show that the problem is still there.
I think with the decision to pay the 4 guys, which I'm not even inherently against. MPJ got the most ire of those 4 in terms of the contracts because he got paid early in on the front deal, which is why he's going to be the first to come up again in 26, 27. I don't necessarily disagree with the logic behind doing it. The NBA is so funky with the money and the contract matching, and now you've got the addition of the aprons and all that. And sometimes you have to almost pay for potential, and that's kind of what happened with Michael Porter Jr.
Correct.
Who not that long before he had gotten paid with his contract, was plagued with lower back issues and drop foot and injuries that we weren't sure, surgical procedures we weren't sure he was going to be able to fully come back from.
Correct.
And to his credit, he has. And I do also agree with the notion that I've heard Mike Evans and others point. They're like, Michael Porter Jr. is putting up career numbers, and it was like he's improving on his like career rebounding average by 1 rebound. Or
hey, at least he's trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Jamal's trending in the wrong direction.
100%. And Jamal's extension being timed the way that it was means you can't move him right now because it hasn't kicked in yet, and it makes it harder to absorb for another team to absorb that salary. It limits what you can move and what you can do because of the bloat that you have to match on the other end, and you don't have a lot of draft assets to give away. So I think with the moves that you've made, if you're Calvin Booth, you've stuffed the cupboard pretty full. So you don't have enough room to just add another big piece. You can try to cram some things in the nooks and the crannies, and if you want to bring in like a Jordan Clarkson, which would be like a Zeke Naji and other piece level move, and bolster your bench and try to say, hey, we're going to lift the bench scoring a little bit. You're getting, I think, higher than average expectation play out of Russell Westbrook,
no doubt,
and others. So if you want to try to do that, that's fine, and maybe put some other pieces around there. But at the end of the day, even if you manage to squeeze a few things in there, you need your stars to play better. That's it. That's all they got.
But if you look at this team and compare them to the team that won the championship,
mm-hmm.
what are the differences? What are the problems? Their bench isn't as good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think there are Jeff Greens out there you could go get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Bruce Brown is much of a hero as he was during that run.
Not if you ask Mike Evans.
There are Bruce Browns out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You already have Westbrook playing well coming off the bench. You just need to go add a bench guy or two. But the biggest problem, again, not to just continue to say it, is that Jamal Murray isn't what he was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find a way to solve that riddle.
And on that note, because Jake Shapiro wrote about this at denversports.com as well, the parallels between the start of that title run year and this year are actually pretty similar. Record-wise, they were not stellar at this point in the season. I think they were within a game or two of their current record at this point during the title year. And Jamal Murray was struggling to start the year, coming off of injuries, hamstring, knee, ankle, the lower body stuff that seems to plague him, soft tissue-wise at times. And it was similar. And Jake even went so far as to draw the parallel down to a finite point of at in game, 25, 26, whatever it is, Jamal Murray hit a game-winning shot in that game to spark a game that the Nuggets had fallen behind and probably shouldn't have won, found a way to win. Similar vibes to the Sacramento game, and it sparked a turnaround where they won I think it was like 19 of their next 26 games or something like that. And so nothing is set in stone here, and current results are not always indicators of future performance, but I don't feel the same way. The title run was not so long ago that I don't remember how I felt during that time. I don't remember feeling anxious about the title run year team as I do about this year.
I agree with that. And there's good news and bad news with these proposed trades. The good news is, all right, Calvin Booth is recognizing that something's wrong. And, hey, we can't continue to waste years in Jokic's prime. All right, that's good news. The bad news is I think the proposed trades we've heard are doing the wrong thing to try and solve the problem. That, I think, is the issue. And so I think they would be better off to keep the core group together, see if they can do what they did in their title run year, and it'll, get better as the season goes along. See if Jamal can turn back into what Jamal was. And if he doesn't, I get it. You're burning 1 year of the Jokic prime. You're wasting one. But then you can trade Jamal. Then you blow it up and you change the ingredients and see if you can make a better meal. I think that would be a smarter move than doing this one. Turns out, Jamal is the problem and we still got to solve it. Now MPJ is somewhere else. I just think that's a bad idea. I think your most likely way to be a contender this year is to improve your bench and go figure it out with these core four. That's more likely than get rid of MPJ, bringing in Zach LaVine, and that becomes the cure-all. I don't believe it. I don't think that's going to happen.
James, nobody knows it better than you. Give me the latest and greatest going on at denversports.com.
Well, with 3 teams being in action, there's never a lack of news. There's never a lack of games to react to. So, Andrew Mason's out in LA. He's there for the game tonight. He'll be all over it. You can read him on the website. You can check him out on our socials. He'll be getting stuff in the locker room. So we'll be all hands on deck tonight. So it's a biggest game the Broncos have played in quite a long time. If you want to know what's going on, why it happened, denversports.com is your place.
Love it. You already told me, spoiler alert, you think the Broncos are going to win tonight. So give me your score.
I think they win 24-21. I think Will Lutz hits one at the buzzer.
Okay. All right. The cosmic retribution for the blocked field goal. He gets his game winner against the other divisional.
What's
opponent.
your pick? And you're going to pick the Chargers, and then people are still going to call me the hater.
No, I'm not going to pick the Chargers because I think that the Broncos are a much better team than when they face them. And I think that while the score last game was not nearly as close as it indicated, I think that this team has more belief and faith in itself. And I think Bo Nix is better overall. So I do think the Broncos are going to win, but I foresee it being ugly. I think this could be a 19-16 kind of game. And it's slogging because listen, the Chargers can't run the ball either. And this defense is good enough, again, that if you give them a key like that, hey, we're not scared of Cormani Vidal,
right?
Which it wasn't last time they played. It was J.K. Dobbins.
He had, I think, 98 yards in that game.
Yeah.
So
if I'm the Broncos defense and we feel confident that we can tee off on Cormani Vidal and that rushing offense, I think that as good as Justin Herbert is, I have faith in this defense. Pat Surtain is going to be there this time to go up against Ladd McConkey, who's not just going to be able to run wild like he did in the first game. So I do think that this defense is going to be able to handle that. But on the flip side, given the way the Broncos have run the ball just as poorly for most of the year, I think the Chargers defense is going to have a similar thing. And it's going to come down to which quarterback is going to be able to make a drive and make a play late in the game when needed. And I think that's when Bo Nix, just like we saw against Indianapolis and like we saw at the end of the Cleveland game, is going to be able to make that drive when it counts, regardless of how ugly it may have looked for 2.5 quarters, or whatever it is. So give me, and it may end on a Will Lutz situation, but yeah, I'm going to go Broncos 19, Chargers 13.
I will be a Bo lever if they win tonight. I will buy the Bo Nix jersey.
I'm begging for it.
If they lose, I don't want to have you rolling your eyes and throwing your head back when I'm like, told you they can't beat anybody that's worth a hoot.
Well, you can't say it. You said you have to say they haven't yet because they'll still have opportunities. They're going to go to the playoffs.
Well, maybe. If they lose tonight, I'm going to, it's time to start worrying. I mean, I wake up with my panic meter at a 5. Okay. It moves to like an 8.
All right. Well, check out everything we got going on at denversports.com. As James mentioned, so much content from Jake Shapiro, Will Peterson, Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason. Follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel. So much great video content, shorts, long form. You can see the streams of all of our shows. Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. It's all there at your fingertips, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I will see you all tomorrow with what we hope is a reaction to a Broncos postseason clinching victory.